Tonight's session is on paragraph 113 through 118 of Kitáb-i-Íqán, and the theme is the meaning of power and sovereignty of religion and manifestation of God. So in order for you to wrap your head around the topic, what does really power mean when it comes to religion, and whether religion's power and the manifestation of God's power is the way that the people have comprehended so far. Bahá'u'lláh raises this question and gives comprehensive answers to it. My hope is that you have read it, and if not, you can accompany me. This is the problem that was presented to Bahá'u'lláh by the uncle of the Bab. And the question was by the uncle to Bahá'u'lláh that we have heard by the traditions and Quran and so forth that when the promised one appears, he will have ultimate power. He rules over the world, and he will not be weak, he will not suffer, and all those concepts that comes with it. And then he has faced a dilemma. The uncle had faced a dilemma, and the dilemma was, now I am dealing with my nephew who has claimed to be the promised one, and at the same time, he has suffered like nobody else in the world have suffered. So either the traditions are wrong, or I am misunderstanding all these traditions and expectations, or Bahá'u'lláh, help me, what's going on? Did you get the problem? So, as you know, the recipient of the tablet actually asked the question that majority of us have. What does really sovereignty means? Jesus, Moses, Muhammad, Bab, and Bahá'u'lláh, and for that matter, any manifestations of God have faced that dilemma. So before I go over the paragraph, I want to see whether each one of you share that concern or not. When we say a manifestation is all-knowing, all-powerful, what does that really mean? Do we mean physically? Do we mean spiritually? Or both? And if we mean either way, why? Why do you come to that conclusion? So let's see, who should I pick on? Philip, what do you say? Philip. Unmute Philip.
It is sovereignty in a spiritual sense, and I believe if desire, it could be a material sense, but somewhere in the writings it talks about it's not worth, you know, the material sense is not worth it. It's not, that's not what the value is.
Okay, very good. Fahima, what do you think? Unmute yourself.
I think the manifestation of God can be powerful physically or spiritually. they choose to go through all this suffering. I think that they have the power to do whatever.
So why is it that so far, whatever we have seen shows that physically seems that they are unable, or appears that they are suffering, they are in prison, they become executed, and so forth. So do you agree that the question is valid? And you would not shoot the questioner because of the question. What do you say, Lillian? Lillian? Unmute Lillian. No? Okay. Kamrat? Okay.
Yes,
See,
sir. Yeah, I'm here. Hello?
Oh, yeah, good.
Can you hear me? Yes, I'm here.
Kamrat, great. Yes.
Oh, okay.
So how do you understand it? Do you, what is that? Do you believe that this sovereignty is simply a spiritual, or it can be physical, or it should be both if they are the source of creation and revelation?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think
Makes sense or not?
Yeah, the previous lady did mention they can have both, but the thing is they are of a spiritual exist. I mean, they have a higher station in this world. It's not, you know, this material world is a place where you get tested, and that's why they also live through this suffering, and at the same time, you know, because without being suffering, going through all this opposition and all that, it means this is a demonstration of the capacity they can go through, but at the same time, they leave impression with the followers in order that their message means something. You know, it is an everlasting message.
Excellent.
It's not really one.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
Those of you who have read 113, Bahá'u'lláh suggests that they actually have power from every perspective. Please pay attention. He does not separate the power from physical or spiritual, rather the potential versus the actual manifestation of that power. Please pay attention, how did I conceptualize that? Baha'u'lláh in 113 tries to first change the way that we look at this concept, spiritual versus material. For him, reality is all spiritual, although it has the manifestation of material. Are you with me, Nabil? The great. Do you see that?
Yes, I am. And
So
I was
that,
texting you. I was just putting a chat for you that I need to take a call from the Word Center in 15 minutes.
okay, very good. See,
Thank you.
look at it. So what we are saying is concept of power, which is assigned to kingship or sovereignty. Baha'u'lláh says, Habib, you are making a mistake to think that they are powerless. Rather, they have the power at all time and under all conditions, However, the physical apparent manifestation of that power may take centuries or time to manifest. Do you see the difference? So that, and then Baha'u'lláh in 113, he talks about the fact that actually each and every manifestation of God that has come has talked about the next manifestation who will have the power and rules the world. So in 113, he is trying to say that, first of all, this is not only an attribute of the promised one of the Islam. Every single manifestation exercises that concept. Make sense or not? You see, that is the first and foremost thing to remember, Neda Khanum the Great. That is to say that according to Baha'u'lláh, and you can see it in 113, he says this is not attributed to Qa'im, promised one of Islam specifically. Rather, it says it is for all the manifestations of God at the end of 113. And then he says, the way that the people have understood sovereignty is not really what truly means. You see that? So two concepts has been manifested. So then you have to ask Baha'u'lláh, then what do you mean then? When Jesus had sovereignty, what did it really mean? And then Baha'u'lláh in 114, he says, furthermore, by sovereignty is meant the all-encompassing, please pay attention to the wording, the all-encompassing, all-pervading power which is inherently exercised. Please pay attention to the word inherently exercised by the Qa'im or anybody else, whether or not he appear to the world clothed in the majesty of earthly dominion. What does that really mean? That means from the day that Bob manifests himself, Baha'u'lláh manifests itself, they actually possess that power. That makes more sense because you see Baha'u'lláh is in prison, but he addressed the kings and the rulers and says, I am the king of the kings. Make sense? See, somehow you have to put your head around it. What is he talking about? He is in prison cell. He is at the mercy of the order of Napoleon, that Napoleon can, with one order, take care of the prisoner. But there is something in this prisoner that no power in the world can undermine his authority. You understand that? Baha'u'lláh, therefore, he says beautifully, this is so beautiful. Nabil, pay attention, it is very beautiful. That means that don't judge them by their weaknesses, because there is other factors that contribute to that observation. What do you think that may be? Who else wants to go for it? Payman Khan. Yes, unmute.
Yes, sir. I think
So
there is a hand.
there is a hand. You have a hand, or you
No,
have
no,
your
no.
leg up?
Mershid Khanum, I think she has her hand
Okay.
up.
Mershid Khanum بفرما. Unmute, unmute. Mr. Host, pay attention and unmute Mershid. Parsha, unmute Mershid. Put up the text in a site. Unmute Mershid. Mershid.
See the name. If they,
The name is Mershid. He is shaking her hand. Okay? No?
I have two other hands up. One is Brian. The other one is Nuriye.
So what happened to Mershid? I see her hand is going up and down.
Well, she can unmute herself because I don't see it on the list.
Unmute yourself, Mershid. Okay, same technical problem. Next one. Who is the
But
next one?
my question was, this is Nuriye from Oregon. My question was about the sovereignty and one day, why did it reveal their sovereignty in this world? But the discussion was gone because my hand was up long time ago and nobody noticed it. So therefore I am done with it because they answered the question already. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's good. So Mr. Jahed, I think, is in love with someone and Paris text left and right, but you have to forgive him for a while. But raise your hand. Yes, John the Great. Go ahead.
I'm not sure you're referring to me. I'm certainly not John the Great.
Of course, you are great. Go ahead.
Yeah, so your earlier questions had to do with power and sovereignty. So if I understand, if that's my understanding, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but I find concepts like spiritual, and I think many modern Western scientifically educated people find a word like spiritual to be certainly a very hazy word and subject to all kinds of interpretations. I'd like to use the word ideas for a moment. When I became a Baha'i many years ago, and I became a Baha'i because of the ideas of Baha'u'lláh. And I find the ideas of Baha'u'lláh extremely powerful. And so when I think of Baha'u'llah's sovereignty and his power, I think of the power and sovereignty of his ideas. I'm not saying that spirituality is not important. But because I come from a scientific background and because most of the people that I deal with are very hard-headed, materialistic, I would even say atheist or agnostic people, I have to use the language that they're familiar with.
Yes, I understand,
so,
John. See, what we are trying to say, because I have on this team and this group some people who are Baha'i, some of them are not Baha'is, they come from diverse backgrounds. What I believe 113 is trying to teach me is that, Habib, regardless of your background, the power that the manifestation exercises is an energy that puts everything into motion, whether kinetic or potential. That is to say, this is an energy, there is a force which is in motion. Baha'u'lláh himself calls it creative force. And he says, although you may not see the power of manifestation in the material world, but he says, don't worry, Habib, it's a matter of time. in the matter of time, you will see that the same person who is called Jesus, who in his own lifetime was the center of suffering, he says, now you look at the world and then you see how many kings are under his shadow. You understand how does he look at it? He says, look, and then he, on 114, 115, he says, look at Muhammad. Muhammad at his own time, he suffered so much, according to Bahá'u'lláh, that he went to God and said, I don't want it, you can have it. And God will tell Muhammad, Muhammad, if you are unhappy, you have two choices. Either create a hole on the ground and go in it, or find a ladder and go to heaven. So Baha'u'lláh quotes that passage in Quran to display that this manifestation suffered a lot. He also brings other passages to say that Muhammad actually has claimed to say no manifestation has suffered as much as I have suffered. Baha'u'lláh looks at those statements and then say, now look at Islam and Muhammad. Please pay attention. He says, now look at how many nations, whether they understood his teachings or not, are under his shadow. He says, look at it. Abdul-Wahab Abbas, Secret of Divine Civilization. Abdul-Wahab Abbas attributes the European Renaissance, which is a scientific renaissance, to Islam. So Baha'u'lláh says, don't worry. Even on the material sense, physical sense, the power manifests. If it doesn't manifest at their own time, it manifests afterwards. Make sense? Any question on that? Bhutan, what's happening? Yes.
I have a general thought that I wanted to share. Probably it's appropriate now.
Yes.
And that is, I think God, or let's say even Baha'u'lláh as the manifestation of God, or all the other messengers, they bind themselves to the laws that God has created, whether physical laws or spiritual laws. So they don't break their own laws.
Yes.
So they're subject to the laws that they have created themselves. And the life of the manifestation on earth is also subject to those laws.
Yes.
So all their suffering, as you said, in the long term, will turn into that sovereignty that Baha'u'lláh refers to in the Íqán. Nevertheless, during their lifetime on earth, they're subject to the laws, the physical laws of this earth, and they suffer like everybody else.
Yes. Beautiful. See, 113, 114, 115 wants to say, my hope is that you have read it, wants to say, don't judge superficially. Don't try to judge them by the fewness of their followers, or don't judge them by the extent of their spiritual powers. Look at, see, let's be realistic. How many years has passed since the revelation of Baha'u'lláh? About not 200 years, right? You are celebrating the 200 years birthday of Baha'u'lláh, and the Bab. So from the time of the Bab until now, you had a long time, and Baha'u'lláh answers this question. So with all this technology, with all this teaching campaign, don't you think that there has to be a faster growth for an expansion of this great revelation? Anybody wants to give it a shot at it? See, I asked a question which some of you have difficulty to ask. Do you really, when you look at the rate of expansion and consolidation, the first 200 years of Christianity, Islam, Bahá'ísm, Bahá'í Faith, do you think we actually have met the requirement of the age to manifest the spiritual power of Baha'u'lláh in the realm of contingency? Who wants to give it a shot?
We have 3 hands up. If anybody has the answer to this question, go ahead. If not, we will call other people.
I wanna just give my comment, and it looks like, you know, Shoghi Effendi says that God has given a respite for humanity for a whole century. When the appointed time comes and we don't respond to that, then, you know, it's gonna unleash all these calamities or whatever that is gonna wake the humanity up.
Okay, now, oh my God, don't make me to become scared now tonight.
No, it is a good thing. It is not a bad thing, you know, it is an awakening. So therefore, what I want to try to say is that looks like the big, you know, conversion to the Baha'i faith, you know, big belief is not going to come until humanity is awakened, because we are in just a slumber right now. We are not too much paying attention to the spiritual matters.
Very good, very good. Nuria Khanum.
Vale.
Let's see. I am a sleepy guy. Fahima Khanum, this is the same question, it seems, that you and I were discussing earlier today. So I am a sleepy guy. I don't teach the cause. The people are all going goofy. And then Mr. God, who is a chess player up there, suddenly says, okay, this Payman Sleepy didn't do the right thing, so we do some tickling and create some calamity, and then Jalil wakes up from the calamity. Do you really buy that? Is this really the God that you believed in 21st century? Think. Some people rather to die than to think. Please pay attention to the question. You have to verify the validity of that thinking process. That whether calamity is caused by God or calamity is the result of the ignorance of humanity to heed the teachings which are essentially required for this day and age. Do you see how did I reframe that? Is it really God or is it humanity? Inwardly, the Baha'is, Shoghi Effendi says, Baha'u'lláh says, if the Baha'is were obedient to my command, by now majority of the people of the world were adorned with my name. So on one hand, Baha'is are responsible. Mm-hmm. Do you see that? Yes, Mr. John, the scientist. Unmute yourself.
You mentioned the word suffering earlier. Baha'u'lláh talks about suffering and all the manifestations of suffering. And you also use the word submission from Islam, submission to the will of God. Actually, it's the word suffering is interesting because it actually means submission. It has the same etymological root as the word submission.
Exactly.
So apparently we have not, the world and certainly the Baha'is have not submitted to the message and to the will of God. And as you were explaining now, that may be the reason why, not only why the faith is not spreading, but why humanity faces such awful crisis.
Okay, very good. So let's see, we have Varga Milton. Yeah, unmute yourself, please. You wanted to say something, you're not? Mr. Jahed, why she cannot talk? Unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry. It's my first time. I just want to listen today. I'm just enjoying very much the discussion.
Okay. So if you do that, then I have to pick up on Nahid Sobhani. Nahid, so do you, yes, how do you see the world?
I'd rather listen to you guys, to everyone.
That is a good runaway course. No?
Mr. Riazati.
But do you understand what's happening? That they have the power, their teaching has the power from the day that they utter it. But in order for that power to manifest, the means of manifestation is the maturity of humankind.
Correct.
And this maturity comes about by the efforts and understanding of the people who claim to be his followers, and then the effort that the non-believer make. And the crisis comes when these two factors, meaning the believers don't do what they are supposed to do, and the people's maturity has not reached that level that it has to reach, and then the clash comes in that we call it crisis or calamity. Make sense or not? Yes, Utan. A sleepy Utan.
I totally agree with your explanation. However, we have this terminology in the faith. We call it the greater plan of God. So how do we fit that idea into this theory of
Very good. What is, let's see, God is a planner, huh? How does he plan? Mr. Tamrat, how does God plan? If you don't say anything, then Nabil jumps in. Tamrat?
Yes, I'm here. Well,
what is the greater plan, lesser plan?
Yeah, if we know the plan of God only through what the manifestation can tell us, because the plan of God is, you know, if we can do that, that means we're limiting God. We cannot do that.
Excellent.
So just the way, however we can understand is what the manifestation of God can tell us.
Okay.
And so throughout his life, we're given that direction, how he lives his life, what the messages are, and from the messages that all this, you know, the current world order will be rolled up, and the new one will come in its stead. This is
okay,
one.
So let's focus, Tamrat. You know, I have a shortness of focusing. My psychologist has diagnosed me. So let me focus on it. Greater plan of God versus lesser plan. Why do we use this term really? Do you understand the question? Does God has any plan other than what has been rolled out by the boards of manifestation of God for short term and long term? For instance, if you and I do not move, no matter what, sooner or later, what has been promised by Bahá'u'lláh comes to life.
Yeah.
It's not a good understanding, make it short and sweet.
That's the general understanding.
Very good. Now, Mr. Hutan.
Yes, sir.
So when we say greater plan of God, does that eliminate the activities that humanity does?
No, it doesn't. But the question is the relationship with this concept of catastrophes and the greater plan of God. Are those part of the greater plan of God, or those are just events? And if those are just events, what is the greater plan of God?
My friend, do not make me confused, Mr. Hutan. You are from Virginia, you are already sleepy. See, my friend, the greater plan of God is simply what Bahá'u'lláh has enshrined in his writing. Anybody disagrees, raise his hand. And then in order for that new world order, new science of mind and heart to roll itself throughout the universe, we as a human being have to become mature to understand this plan of God. Makes sense, Hutan? When there is a discrepancy between us and that plan, then the crisis takes place. Then the calamity takes place. But Bahá'u'lláh does not initiate calamity in order to tell us, you bad boys, I am going to teach you a lesson. Calamity intrinsically is a result of not maturely accepting the plan that Bahá'u'lláh, God, universe has offered us. Do you see how I am trying to eliminate these fundamentalist views that a God is sitting there and try to punish you? Because that does not help him. Because Bahá'u'lláh in his writings wants people to accept his teaching through free will and enlightenment and purity of heart, not through fear and resentment. Do you understand the difference? Because if the whole world becomes Baha'i, but they are not transformed, Bahá'u'lláh has not accomplished anything. Then it will be crisis after crisis. Make sense or not? Hutan, last question only. Go ahead.
So, just a comment. That is, my understanding is that the greater plan of God, as much as the lesser plan of God is an active force.
Exactly.
It's not an active force. So there are things happening beyond the predictions of Baha'u'lláh as to what is going to happen in the future, that that greater plan of God will influence the process of reaching that goal of Baha'u'lláh.
Yeah, see, how about, because I have some people on this forum that are non-Baha'i, now these people go home and say, what is a plan of God? I didn't know that God was a planner. So don't confuse me. Okay. But what we are saying is this, see, lesser peace, greater peace. Is that good? We have a lesser peace, and we have a most great peace, and we have a great peace. So far, so good, Fahime. We have three peace. but they are not treatise. They are all the manifestation of a concept which Bahá'u'lláh envisioned for humanity called peace. Now, this process of unfoldment may go through the stages, and these stages become lesser or greater, but all of them are by the will of God. Nothing moveth but by the will of God. So everything, whether you go against it or you go with it, it goes towards the greater plan of God. This is why Baha'u'lláh beautifully says, sooner or later, everybody shall attain to the presence of his Lord. He directly is saying, Habib, mature up. I can make it happen. But that is not the aim. The aim is that you do it through maturity, through suffering / submission, through free will. Do you understand this? So I think I gave you enough ingredients to confuse you that you can go and read a little bit. Now, Baha'u'lláh talks about the fact that compare and conclude in 117. He says, let's see, don't you think Islam at this very moment or at the time of Baha'u'lláh had proven itself to show its physical apparent power as well as a spiritual power? Do you, I should not ask this. Saeed Jan, are you there? Do you agree with Baha'u'lláh? Oh God, I have to cut my tongue. You never agree or disagree, but we are using these in order to facilitate discussion. Do you believe that right now Islam actually has power over humankind? Or at 1844, the power of Islam transfers to Bahá'ísm? And this is why you see that in fact, all the religions, including Bahá'ísm, if they do not accept the active agent of power, that is Baha'u'lláh, they actually contribute to disorder rather than order. Make sense or not? Anybody want to give it a shot? Arbana Khanum, do you want to say something? No? Okay. Let's see. Lillian? Lillian, are you sleepy or do you want to give it a shot?
I think there is an issue here that needs to be clarified.
Yes.
Maybe for the friends that I don't think it's clear what is the plan of God. And we are using some Baha'i words, terms here that may not be very clear.
So what do you think the plan of God is?
You see, what we have learned is that every religion has a cycle. And within this cycle, actually, which is 1,000 years, Baha'u'lláh says after 1,000 years, another manifestation would come and bring a new teaching. By history of all the faith of God, because the faith belongs to God, doesn't belong to people. It's one God, one religion, and one set of instruction that comes in different periods. So if we believe in that, that means what is our next step of growth of humanity? So if we think globally, and not me versus the other. We are talking right now about the spiritual growth of mankind. So this next level that we have challenge with is the globalization, which the spiritual growth necessary to accomplish a global society or global sovereignty is necessary here.
Excellent.
Now, how do we get to understand that now Baha'u'lláh brings the laws that did not exist before because there was no way that we could have accomplished this at that period of growth of humanity. Now we have, by this tremendous cycle, which is 500,000 years, which is we are at the beginning of this cycle, to basically have a maturation of humanity and spiritual growth. So
Excellent.
we are learning to tap into our spiritual being, which the
Excellent.
consequence of that is advancement of science, advancement of technology, advancement of human spiritual growth. And this allows us actually to have a better life if we learn to mature in terms of spiritual laws. Now,
Excellent. Excellent. Lillian, how about this is how I understand it from what you said. Lillian is a scholar, ladies and gentlemen. She went through a historical evolution of revelation. See? What
no, Lillian is ignorant. Please don't put me there.
Don't say that. Don't say that. See, the question is this. When a revelation appears, that is a consummation of all the revelations of the past. Agreed? That is to say, when you accept Bob, that means all the power of the manifestationhood from the beginning, which had no beginning, manifest in Bob. And therefore, when you accept Bob, you have accepted Muhammad, you have accepted all the manifestation before Bob and all the manifestation after Bob, because all of them germinate in the revelation of the Bob. Therefore, anybody who accepts the latest manifestation, he or she is in touch with the creative force that manifests that reality inwardly and outwardly. So far, so good? So if that's the case, when it is inwardly, you say spiritualization. When it is outwardly, you say materialism. Abdul Baha Abbas says both of them are two sides of the same force. But you have to accept the sovereignty, the power of the manifestation of the age. So now, here and now, the greater plan of God, everything that you may use, all means consummation of the power of Baha'u'lláh that tries to change the way that the people think, feel, and live their life. If we do not mature, only that process delays. That doesn't mean Baha'u'llah's sovereignty has been delayed. Rather, humanity has not appreciated through education and otherwise. I give you another example. Baha'u'lláh always looked at his own followers as the best example to offer to the people of the world. Do you agree or not? The House of Justice over and over mentions this. Baha'u'lláh looks at the followers that he has, the institution that he has offered them, and say, show that you are different. When you show in reality that if you are a Baha'i, individual, community, institution, if you are thinking differently, acting differently, viewing differently, then the power of Baha'u'lláh manifests even in the physical realm. Do you see how did I do it? Baha'u'llah's power is always there. Followers fail. Institutions fail. But Baha'u'lláh doesn't fail. This is why the more we mature, the more we transform as an individual, then our manifestation become mature. As a collective individual, then the power of Baha'u'lláh manifests. This is a beautiful concept, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, let's see who else haven't talked. Let's see. Fariba Khanum doesn't want to talk, so I am not going to say her last name. So forget that. Rocco the Great. Rocco. No? Okay. Said. No?
Mershid has her hand up.
Who?
Mershid.
Mershid. Very good, Mershid. Go for it.
You have to unmute.
Unmute him. Unmute her. Barsha Jun, unmute her.
I did, but looks like it doesn't work.
Now you are talking. Go for it.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. What I wanted to say, the subject changed. One of the subject that got kind of put aside was all the tribulation that all the manifestation of God went through is a lesson for us to go through it through our own life. This is a lesson.
Really? Let's wait. Did Baha'u'lláh suffer that we suffer?
No, no.
Baha'u'lláh suffered that we be free from suffering and free people from suffering.
But still, we do in our own daily life, according to our own capacity, we go through different suffering. Everybody has different potential. Some people are stronger than the other, but we all have different level of, suffering.
Yes.
And this is one of the things that we are going to learn, that we have to submit to the will of God, but we have to go through these trials.
Okay, how about we give it, say it the way that John said it. We submit to the will of God, which is a general will of existence, and within that process of submission, we may also suffer, but we accept suffering not as a suffering which is bad, rather as a way to cleanse ourselves and others from that which is not worthy. Isn't that more in line with Baha'u'llah's?
Of course, of course, of course. I mentioned we all have to submit to the will of God. But you put it in a very nice phrase, as the other gentleman who did.
Very good. John, you have the last word. Say.
I hope I don't have the last word, but Right. So we're talking about suffering and submission. I think the greatest suffering that anybody in this day and age could go through is having to submit, is having to give up your biases, having to give up your becoming truly skeptical. It seems to me that the Kitáb-i-Íqán is a book about skepticism. Baha'u'lláh is demanding that we become skeptical. Now, the etymology, the origin of the word skepticism is to seek, to search for. I believe that what Baha'u'lláh is telling us is that it is our responsibility to search for the truth.
Yes.
And in order to do that, we must completely and utterly give up our biases, our preconceptions. He spends a great deal of the book talking about that. And for most people, especially in this day and age when we're taught to be individualistic and free and believe in our own thoughts, that's the most demanding thing for a modern human being to have to bear. And I think all of us have met very few people who can be truly free from that point of view and give up our biases.
Sure.
And most modern psychology really focuses on that.
Yes, I agree. John chapter 14, verse 17, I think maybe shed some light when he talks about a spirit of truth and the fact that truth will save you, truth shall free you. That is a very important statement. Now, please pay attention here. When you look at this concept, Baha'u'lláh does not want to take away our individuation, rather wants to get away, we get away from that which divides us. Do you understand the difference? You and I are supposed to be individuated. Individuated, the term actually is the root for individual. I-N, divided, mean not divided. When you and I are not divided based on how we think, we feel, we act, and it is in line with the teachings of this day and age, then we say we are submitting willingly. When there is a dichotomy, then we experience a state which we call suffering. Please pay attention very carefully, because if you are a non-Baha'i, you have to also relate to this. When there is a universal law, whether it is scientific or it is a spiritual, moral, when we accept it wholeheartedly, then we act upon it wholeheartedly and freely, then we do not suffer. And if we suffer, is in relation to the whole that we suffer. But individually, we are content because we try to harmonize our life with that power which is overwhelming, and that is sovereignty. Do you see where am I taking you? That we should not be dismayed, we should not be disappointed, but we have to also accept responsibility for our behaviors. We should not just give lip services. We should not just have a propaganda of teaching, because Shoghi Effendi warns us that these ideals will not going to be effective unless it impacts our personal lives. The degree of the transformation that we have actually unfolds the revelation of Baha'u'lláh and its sovereignty. Make sense? Now I am going to go How many more hours do we have, Farshad?
You got 30 more minutes.
Okay, so you were sleeping, so go back to sleep for 30 more minutes. Let's see. Baha'u'lláh continues in 117. Please pay attention. Have you read Bible when it says, don't think I have come to bring peace. Nay, I have come to bring sword. Do you remember that, John? Do you remember, Hutan? I have come to separate mother from the daughter, father from the son. Do you remember that majority of Christians said, no, 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 no way, Jose. This is not that happy Jesus that we know. Happy Jesus is love, love, dove, dove. What is this? But why then, how do we understand that passage? Baha'u'lláh in 117 tries to use the concept of sovereignty in relation to the meaning of separation that is mentioned by the power of God. Make sense or not? Do you remember that passage or not? Comrade the Great? No? Okay. Utan?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand the passage that I just quoted?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. How can the sovereignty of God, the power of God, Mr. Farshad, separates the mother from the daughter, father from the son? But where did the love go? Farshad.
I'm just technical director, Tamrat. Tamrat, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Yes, my understanding is it's not separating in a sense of physical separation, but in a sense of how mature we are, how we understand the meaning, the symbology under the word in that because it's not very clear, when you have that maturity, you haven't reached if the people are not understanding the spiritual sense of the word, then I came here to separate you, meaning it's not a physical separation, but understand who Christ is and differentiating from Jesus is that separation he's talking about.
Very good. Mr. Farshad, did you invite dogs too, or what? They also joined the Zoom meeting. This is why the number went to 58. So dogs do not invite dogs and cats.
Dogs automatically come with people. That's why I try to mute people who are not actively talking. Go ahead.
Please mute your dog if you can. Hello. Please pay attention. See, I love Tamrat. Do you know why? Tamrat is so spiritual. He wants to see everything so nicely. Everything is lovey. Everything is dovey. And Jesus never means anything bad. But let's look at it. Even physically, the people can be separated by the revelation of God if their intention, if their motives are not in harmony with the will of God. I'll give you an example. Do you remember Tahireh? Do you remember that? Hey, Mom, what did she say to her husband? Husband was a very highly accomplished clergy, right? At least this is what he thought. And when he came to choose between the truth and relation, what did Tahireh choose, Fahima? The truth. Truth can separate you. Truth can unite you. Truth can separate the godly from ungodly. Truth can separate the people whose intention is not pure versus those that are pure. Bahá'u'lláh actually explains that, and I invite you to read this very, very carefully. 117, when Bahá'u'lláh says, yes, there is the sword of God. So that sword, the sword of God, was actually what separated the believer from the non-believer. A group of them, they said, we heard and we abide. And then the second group, they said, we heard, but we rebel against you. Baha'u'lláh says, in fact, when the truth comes, truth becomes like a sword. And this sword tries to separate those people who are mature, who have accepted the truth, from those who think they have accepted the truth, but they are the people of ungodly. Makes sense? This is beautiful. So Jesus, comrade,
one example.
Jesus, yes.
One example of that is Baha'u'llah's own family.
What is that?
Baha'u'llah's own family.
Beautiful. You said it. See, this Fahim reads a lot. See, if he also, if Farshad read as much as Fahim read, then we were in a good shape. See, Baha'u'lláh, let's look at it. Agha Jan, do you remember Agha Jan Hutan?
Yes, sir.
You know, Agha Jan was ever ready for God, Hazarullah, servant of God, Khadimullah, right?
Yes.
The Kamrat, I'm giving you an example. Then what happened to Agha Jan? Agha Jan responsible for 75% of Baha'u'llah's tablets. But Agha Jan, in fact, was one of those persons who was physically present more than anybody else. Now, what happened at the end?
He broke the covenant.
He broke the covenant. Now say it non-religiously. He was with the truth, but he did not recognize the truth.
Twice.
Why?
Twice.
Twice, not thrice. It doesn't matter, bro. Look at his own family, like you said. Baha'u'lláh had 14 children all together. Only 3 made it. So the sword here, please pay attention, Tamra. In fact, Baha'u'llah's revelation creates tests. Tests to prove the validity of our belief system. Look at the same paragraph when he talks about the new sword, Saif al-Badi. He says, my revelation also has created a new sword, a wondrous sword. What type of sword is that? He says, this wondrous sword is my revelation. Why it is sword? Because it cuts those old worlds apart. And that creates crisis. Do you see that? Payman, what did I do? That actually sovereignty of the manifestation comes when the new world order and the old world order clashes. And then based on the maturity of humankind, they choose a new world order. The more they choose it, the more sovereignty of the manifestation manifests. Potentially they have it, in reality also manifests. Make sense? Any question on that? Any comment? Let's see, who should I pick up on?
John has a question. John, go ahead.
John the Great, you are asking so many questions, but go for it.
No, Sorry, I don't mean to monopolize. It's just the word sovereignty. I think most people have trouble with that word. Baha'u'lláh actually defines what the word sovereignty means. It's the first hidden word, where he says, "O son of spirit, my first counsel is this: possess a pure, kindly, and radiant heart, that thine may be a sovereignty ancient, imperishable, and everlasting." So that seems to me to be the essence of what sovereignty is. And again, very few of us seem to have either be capable or have been able to rise to that
Sure.
sovereign position.
Sure, I agree with that. Baha'u'lláh, by the way, from 113 to 118, he is very clear what he means by sovereign. He wants, first of all, see if I have to conclude, he wants to first of all say, don't be superficial and don't judge the power of manifestation by the fewness of his followers or with what physically happens to them and the suffering that they go through. That is point number one. Second, he says by sovereignty, this is in 114, 115, by sovereignty, it means inwardly and utterly. He says they have the power, but it has to manifest gradually. This is why, see, I give you a very live example. We cannot imagine the inherent power of the revelation of Baha'u'lláh at this time. Because whatever we say and we do is based on our limited understanding. You imagine the times that according to Shoghi Effendi, the kings and the rulers of the world become affected by his power. They come to the Universal House of Justice for consultation. When you look at that image, you truly understand what sovereignty means. Because Baha'u'lláh says, I have it spiritually, but give it a time, it will manifest physically. The only thing which you and I have to understand, and this is what I think majority of us have said, please, I beg of you, Baha'u'lláh doesn't want people to accept him by fear, by oppression. We covered that last time. Baha'u'lláh doesn't want the people to come to their knee and then they say, yes, 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 you are right. No, Baha'u'lláh has more respect for humanity. Baha'u'lláh says, I have created you noble. Baha'u'lláh says, I have created you rich. He wants to enrich people. He wants to enable people. You understand the difference? And I tell you, psychologically, the first view that we are waiting for the world to go down, that everybody comes to their knees, that demoralizes humanity. This is why majority of the people get away from religion. Baha'u'lláh doesn't want to demoralize us. He wants to empower us that willingly we follow him. Do you see the difference? Now I go to the last section. Baha'u'lláh says, do you know one of the meaning? I give you another one. How many of you are a Bible scholar? One of the prophecies of the Bible is that when the Jesus shall come, wolf and the sheep they drink from the same river. You agree, Mr. Farshad? Now we see dogs and cats do that. So already the prophecy of Jesus has come to light. Baha'u'lláh, like you said, John, wants to be skeptical a little. And actually, he is in 119. He says, hey, buddy Habib, assume that the sheep and the wolf drink from the same river. So what does that do good to you, buddy? Please pay attention to him. Baha'u'lláh raises question for reflection. He says, when couldn't be, that passage means that the people from diverse background, they actually become unified with common vision. Isn't the sovereignty actually means that we have unified diverse people from diverse background? Which one is more valuable, Mr. Payman? To have the sheep and the wolf and the dog and the cat in your room drinking from the same water, or you have black, white, male, female, to actually accept each other under one banner? Baha'u'lláh says, isn't that sovereignty? Please pay attention to his logic. He says, when I revealed it, I know that unity of human race is my objective. But when it manifests is when you do not have any prejudices anymore. Isn't that more of a sovereignty? Or when the human beings fight, but cat and dog and wolf and sheep are united? Do you understand the terminology? So let's see. I want to ask some question. I want to forget the people from back east because they are already a sleepy time. Let's see. Mr. Omid from Alaska. What is the conclusion of all things that you said? In the individual level, community level, and institutional level? Omid?
Yes, that's a tough question. So could you repeat it one more time so I understand, please?
Okay, I said one more time that Tina can also understand and Sharon Bergis, a little bit of sleepy understand. Basically, all of discussions, because you call it the study of Kitáb-i-Íqán, I call it the utilization of Kitáb-i-Íqán.
Yes.
If these passages doesn't have any relevance in day-to-day operation, just forget it. Don't waste your time.
Agreed.
So my question is this. These passages that revelation acts like a sword, revelation acts as a unification factor between the diverse races, genders, and so forth. And most importantly, the true sovereignty is when the people inwardly and outwardly unify behind the message of manifestation. Now my question is this. How can individual, community, and institutions benefit from this? Short and sweet. Omid Jango. Omid. Unmute him. See, he chickened out when he had to answer. Omid. No? Let's see, who should I pick on? Shahram, individually, what do you learn? Individual, community, institution.
I prefer to listen first. What is your opinion? Then I'll present mine.
See, you are a very smart cookie. So don't have to work together. Omid, go. Omid, you came back and you went. Rocco?
Let me see. Okay, now this is right. Yes, you got it? Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. So I think the level of understanding that there is no otherness, that we are seeing everyone and all the path has truth in it, and in this diverse world that everyone has all these treasury of backgrounds to present to humanity now that we are in this global village, the more we understand that we are one, the more we recognize that the truth is not exclusive, that all are his servants and all abide by his bidding, then we become a lover of light and love, and be able to see truth in every face, and it elevates our conversations when we are speaking with others, so that they will recognize that we consider them as our family. With that mindset, it opens us to recognize more reality, and they start also to see the beauty and strength in the teachings.
Can I conclude, see if I understood it clearly? Okay. In an individual level, I show power, I show sovereignty of Baha'u'lláh, of the truth, for those of you who are not a Baha'i, because Baha'u'lláh is a synonym for truth. Baha'u'lláh is a universal force. In the individual level, when I do not kid myself, I am not crafty, I, with my heart, with my mind, see, I'm repeating John the hidden words. When my heart, my mind, my action, my intention is towards the unification of Habib as an individual, and accept responsibility for the society that I live in, I actually become one of the exponents of sovereignty at the individual level. And if individuals do not have that feeling, then the collection of the individuals do not mean anything, because like Jung was addressing, if you have 1,000 zeros in one place, that doesn't give you one. You have to transform everyone to become the one that they are supposed to become. So individually, each one of us have to show the power of Baha'u'lláh. And do not misquote me. If you have that power, you experience humility. If you have that power, you feel submission by freedom. Then you do not fear Baha'u'lláh. You love Baha'u'lláh. Because Baha'u'lláh is a moving impulse for you, is not something separate from. Now give me an example for community. Let's see. Mr. Brian Ashton. Did I say it right?
You did good.
Okay, go for it. Community.
What about community?
Show me the meaning and the manifestation of the word sovereignty at the community level. I showed it, Omid showed it at the individual level. Because at the individual level, if you have that feeling that you do not feel weak, you do not become dependent, you do not become depressed, you do not become suppressed. Now tell me at the community. Go for it.
Give me a second. Can you hear me okay?
Okay. Yes. I believe it's weak, the internet. Do you?
No, I was just thinking about the question for a moment. I don't know if this relates to a community level, but when I think about the sovereignty and the layers of sovereignty that a messenger of God has, there's a lot of wisdom in what the messenger is exposed of that sovereignty, because really when it comes down to the noonday prayer where it talks about the basic relationship that we're supposed to have with the Creator and therefore with the messenger.
Excuse me, sir.
Go ahead.
We are listening.
Oh, so I'm sorry, I thought somebody needed to say something. To me, both the individual and at the community level, when it comes to the sovereignty of a messenger, is the messenger is never going to expose a level of power that gets in the way of the individual or collectively the community having the opportunity to express faith. If a messenger, I mean, certainly a messenger of God has the power to do whatever he wants in the physical world.
Yes.
And I think often about this, about the situation of Jesus as he's carrying the cross up the hill. Jesus could have simply leveled the Roman Empire had he chosen to. But of course he will not do that, because he would take away the opportunity for every single person that would have witnessed that event from having the ability to create their own level of faith simply by that supernatural event that they would not understand. They would just simply say, wow.
Very good. Baran, concentrate on how community becomes the manifestation of the word sovereignty of the manifestation of God. That is the question. Think about it a little bit. Let's see, Barqa Khanum, what do you say? Barqa Khanum, you listened enough. No? I have to pick up on somebody else then.
I think Rocco had something to say.
What is that?
Rocco?
Rocco, okay. Rocco, go for it.
So I have a question.
You had it, but first answer my question, for God's sake. Let's see. I want you to take home something.
Habib, that was Hutan had a question, not me. Hutan has a question.
Hutan asked several questions. He has to pay $50 for additional one. Let's see.
Hear me.
See, but concentrate. I want you to get to your home these few paragraphs that tomorrow morning, when you go to your job, when you wake up, you do not say simply the power of manifestation means Baha'u'lláh eventually win over the world. We are all happy. Don't give me those stories. We know that. This is what it meant by the great plan of God. I am trying to see how transformative that word is when it comes to individual, which I mentioned what it means. It means you as an individual feel empowered, feel that you are enriched, feel that you are not weak. No matter how much you travel you may have, but you are not weak, because the power of God is within thee. Now I am asking, how does the word sovereignty manifest at the community level? Short and sweet. Let's see. Who should I pick up? Fahim.
The community job is to empower the people as their needs arises. As the individuals transform, also the communities need to transform in that way, that to understand the need of the people, whether it's cultural, whether it's economic, whatever aspect it is, the communities have to focus on the need of the people at that time and be a servant, so to speak, to the individuals.
Good, good. Can we say, Fahima, what Baha'u'lláh has offered? There is no power greater than the power of unity. That I call the sovereignty of Baha'u'lláh at the community level. When the community is not really simply giving a lip service that we are united, when your pain is the pain of everybody, when your concern is shared by everybody, do we really in our community, we know how many people really need help, let alone non-Baha'is, only Baha'is. Only we look at community means to come to gatherings. Is that really the power of unity? Think deeply. Do the Baha'is really inwardly and utterly united? Do we serve the community of our brothers and sisters through the power of Baha'u'lláh? So think in those lines. Are you really only connected with the people who share your own lifestyle, your own thinking style? You do not communicate with Habib Riazati because he happens to be homosexual. You do not talk with Farshad because he happens to be a lesbian. It doesn't look like one, but, or you accept the person unitedly and you do not judge and let that person to go through his battle. He loves Baha'u'lláh as much as you love Baha'u'lláh. So do you see that?
So Habib,
yes,
that's a big test, right? So the test is the Baha'is to preach unity and all that really have to work on themselves within their own community to be united before they can export this outwardly to the bigger community and be the preacher who says, we are Baha'is, we are united, we do so well. So that it goes back to our own tests and difficulties. Until we are united, you cannot put on a face and just go outside and pretend. So that's something that we need to practice all the time. I mean, our teachings are the religion of love, unity. These are the basis. If we don't have the basis right, then really we are being hypocrites.
So do you agree, ladies and gentlemen? See, I brought Iran now onto the level that you and I can feel. Do you know that the people of the world feel the sovereignty of Baha'u'lláh through the power of collective consciousness of community? So if you want to show the power of Baha'u'lláh, do not preach, because Baha'u'lláh doesn't like preaching. The one whose words exceed his deeds, his depth is preferred to his life. Baha'u'lláh, tablet of the source of all good. So did you see how did I brought it the community level? Now the last one. Let's see, who should I pick on? Varga doesn't, she is only listening. Nahid is already sleeping. Let's see. And Tamrat is our religious guru, so he guides us when we go on. Nabil, are you on? No?
So, I have a question.
Let's see. Hold on. Don't ask a lot of questions. Just answer now the
I
question.
didn't ask any question.
Good, good. How does now institution comes in to show the sovereignty of Baha'u'lláh? Please pay attention to this question carefully. If you want to be the member of this group, I am going to challenge you with one thing. Don't read this thing as a text. I want to see how practically these things are applied. Because the people of the world are fed up from just listening to something which they do not see the manifestation of it. Individually, I mentioned the application of these few passages. Community-wise, we explained it. In 2 words, tell me how does this institutions of the Baha'u'lláh manifest the sovereignty of Baha'u'lláh? Anyone to give it a shot? Let's see.
I can try this Tamra.
Okay, Tamra, great. Go for it.
Okay, I would say more on the lines of service, because if institutions serve the community, serve the individual, in that instance, they will arise to the level where the sovereignty can engulf or protect the community as such. So I would say more on service.
Beautiful, but remember there is one distinctive feature also that the institution has, that the individual doesn't have and community doesn't have, and that is that there have to be a component of justice. This is why Baha'u'lláh has given an attribute to his institution, which eventually, when it evolves, becomes houses of justice. So when justice overrules emotion, when justice does agree with the fundamentals that Baha'u'lláh has written, then the manifestation becomes exponent of the power and sovereignty of Baha'u'lláh. Because, remember, ladies and gentlemen, unless these institutions that Baha'u'lláh has outlined, they do not have the distinctive features that Baha'u'lláh has seen in their institution. How do his institution differ from the institutions outside of the world? We call them old world orders. We have to ask ourselves, what are the distinctive features of the Baha'i institution? And for that, I highly recommend to you to read the World Order of Baha'u'lláh by Shoghi Effendi, the section Distinction Feature of Baha'i Institution. One of the primary characteristics that they have, they are the means, not the end. They are the halo reed. They are the channels. They are not trying to suppress anybody, and they cannot. Why? Because Baha'u'lláh doesn't allow them. This is why I think I gave you good homework for yourself. Rather than looking at this passage and say, bah, 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 what a nice passages, no wolf and the sheep and they drink from the same water. Ask yourself in your home, do you actually look at people from diverse background and invite it into your heart? And then you tell me about the sovereignty of Baha'u'lláh. If you are an individual, are you feeling suppressed, depressed? Are you feeling that you are following Baha'u'lláh because of fear, not love, then ask yourself, where is the sovereignty of Baha'u'lláh? And if you are a member of an institution, remember, you are the guest. The host is Baha'u'lláh. And my humble understanding of the Baha'i writing is, if you abuse that tool, you actually damage the revelation of Baha'u'lláh by delaying its sovereignty. And remember, we are not isolated anymore. I know of groups in medias, on internet, that they look at us closely. They are writing about us closely. This is why my concluding statement is this. The more we three levels try, individual, community, institution, to manifest the power of Baha'u'lláh in our operations, actions, then the people who are attached to the old world order, they rise against us. This is where Shoghi Effendi comes in. He says, left, right, all of them come against you. And that is the crisis. But it is so beautiful because it shows that the sovereignty of Baha'u'lláh works. We are undermining the ungodly, which means untruthful. Ungodly means we are fighting those principles that are not helping the unification of humanity, and that manifests our sovereignty. I give you a homework. See if in the beginning of the next session, you come back with your homework, I go and ask you if you want to share. What does it mean when Baha'u'lláh in Lawh Salman, he says one of the signs of maturity of humankind is that the seat of power is vacant and no one dare to approach it. Saltanat bemaunat va ahadi iqbal nakonat. I want to see if you can use these paragraphs to tell me what does that statement mean and how that statement helps us to understand power, sovereignty, and the future of the world. And thank you for your attention. How many minutes do we have if Mr. Shahram can ask a question?
We are at about 9:20. You want to take one question?
Sure. Shahram, go for it.
Okay, question is simple. If I have shortcoming that I cannot follow whatever I'm supposed to as a Baha'i to declare or to present the sovereignty of Baha'u'lláh, what happens?
See, I know you are a good man, Shahram, but see, I'm a psychotherapist, so please forgive me for my ignorance. I don't think anybody has become Baha'i because they are perfect, right? If you are perfect, you never become a Baha'i. You already are a perfect man or happily living your life. Why do you need Baha'u'lláh or do you need anybody else? We are all becoming. We want our tomorrow be better than today. Baha'u'lláh, habit of wisdom. So don't look at your shortcomings. Look at the power of Baha'u'lláh and your ability to transform. Baha'u'lláh, according to one of the tablets, which you can find it in Ma'ida Asamani, volume 4, he says, God does not keep track of your shortcomings. God keeps track of how much you try sincerely. You knock the door, he shall open. You ask, he shall give you. My dear friend Shahram, Baha'u'lláh is a good friend, is a best friend. Baha'u'lláh should not be made of an idol. Baha'u'lláh should not be in the skies. Baha'u'lláh should come down to my heart. Baha'u'lláh lives in my heart, lives in my mind. I don't fear him. I just fear to displease him, but I don't fear him. I love him. I worship his teaching, not as an idol, but rather as a guidelines to charter my life. So Shahram Jan, because we are weak, we need a strength. Baha'u'lláh is our strength. And remember, we always shall be weak, because there is no limit to power. The powerful you are, the more humble and weak you feel. That weakness is the source of power. Baha'u'lláh wants that weakness. Read 7 Valley. What is the last valley? Absolute nothingness. It is in that valley that you see that there is no God but you. Do you see that? Baha'u'llah's sovereignty, ladies and gentlemen, should be considered very carefully. You have to reflect on it. And I beg you, don't think that you have the answer. That is bad. Always have a posture of humility. Always try to learn, because the ocean of meanings of these words are so vast that majority of us use these words but assign our cultural meanings to it. And Baha'u'lláh wants to create a new culture of operation. Thank you for allowing me to be of service to you tonight until next week, I guess, right?
Yes, thank you,